fans, friends, enemies, anyone in between. I am disappointed in what has been brought to me, and I will tell you what it is on my Spirit video, my review of Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron. There was a comment that was left earlier this month, who I suspect is from one of these ignorant people that just go to YouTube videos, don't actually watch the video, and just give their own opinion, wholly uninformed, may I add. I'm not going to reveal their name. I'm going to be that nice. But that's all I'm going to give them, other than a stern reading of their ignorance. How furry is it? Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron. How is that even a question? The horses don't talk, walk on their hind legs, have human parts, etc. Ferdinand horses are 1,000 times more furry than Spirit would ever be. All the movies with talking animals like Pets and Tarzan, etc. But somehow, people think furry from Spirit. Oh! How do I show that emotion? I don't know. So I asked for clarification. I said, Ferdinand as in the story of the bull? Don't know what you mean by the horses. And then he links me to this video.
This is one of my favorite parts! I call this one prancing with the stars. Do you get it? I've replaced dancing with prancing. It's a television show. Have you seen? Okay, I'm so funny.
And then after watching it, I said, oh, I remember that movie. That gives me an idea. So, what I'm going to be doing for this video, I'm not exactly going to be comparing Spirit to Ferdinand, and I'll explain why later, but let's check out just how furry is Ferdinand. So if you did not know, the story of Ferdinand originated from a book that was very short. You could read it in 5 minutes. In fact, I'll go ahead and give you a synopsis using the most simplified speech I can think of. So, bull likes flowers, he doesn't fight. Bee stings bum, he goes crazy. They like crazy. He's sent off, they prick him, they tease him. He doesn't budge. He smells flowers. He likes flowers. Matador loses it. Everyone loses it. He's let go. Flowers smell nice. That's the story. That's basically it. So, how do you make a full-length 108-minute film? I watched all 108 minutes, by the way. First, what I will point out is this is pretty good in terms of standard feature film 3D animation. This was made by Blue Sky Studios. You may know them. They do the Rio films. They do the Ice Age films. I mean, that's about it for their catalog for well-known movies. The Ice Age movies are a big mixed bag. Rio is okay. I think I like the first one more than the second. So yeah, this is Blue Sky Studios. They do pretty good in terms of animation. They're on par with stuff like Illumination and most other studios around. I think it's pretty good. Notably because this is a story about a bull that likes nature and flowers and all that. You need some good shots of flower fields and scenery and nature and all that, and it has that. And it also has some pretty good camera composition, story structure is fine. There's not a lot to write home about just in terms of being a standard kids movie. I do want to bring up some minor things outside of the whole of parts together. This is just a minor nitpick, but there is a lack of Hispanic actors in this film. This takes place in Spain, and there are quite a lot of North Americans that play the Spanish characters. I mean, you can't tell because this is a kids movie and they just throw in celebrity actors to catch people's attention, basically. Oh, that's who's in there? Oh, we gotta see that. I should mention that the bull that they get to play in this movie, the adult size one, is played by John Cena, the wrestler. And the joke here is that he is the big burly wrestler who's also appeals to kids and is a super nice guy. He's just clean cut, inoffensive, and he always wins in the ring. I will admit I'm not that familiar with the whole wrestling thing. I have friends that are, and I guess they might get a chuckle out of that, but whatever. I get the reference. But part of me thinks, what if they gotten like some sort of Hispanic wrestler, a luchador, an actual luchador, to play the bull? If Book of Life can have Hispanic actors, if Coco can have Hispanic actors, why not Ferdinand? That's what I'm saying. Also, the director of not just Ferdinand, but also Rio and Ice Age is Brazilian. Did he just not have a good pool of actors to choose from that could sell the movie? It's all marketing. They do get some Hispanic actors in the background. You do have Gabriel Iglesias, you have musician Juanes, you have a couple others, but they're not mainstay characters, unfortunately. I know I spent quite a bit of time on this minor nitpick, but don't worry, this is the end of it. I'll move on. Speaking of characters, there's like way too many, honestly. You could cut this down to a feature-length size movie and just have less characters. There are 3 little hedgehogs. There's a gang of them. There used to be 4. One of them, something happened to him. I don't know.
I'm Una.
I'm Dos. And I'm Cuatro.
Oh, what happened to Trace?
We do not speak of Tres.
Really, the only thing they add to the movie is later giving some sort of escape route to some of the characters and potential comedic relief. There's a lot of characters here that give comedic relief. There's the goat, there's the extra bulls, there's the dog, first of all. What's the dog doing there? There's just a pet dog there, and I don't know why. You needed to give a role to one random celebrity, so I guess you just write in a character. I actually had to remember what the character's name. This dog is named Paco. Okay, Paco the dog, sure. Who cares? Just throw it in there. And outside, some of the forced, not-so-great attempts at humor, like the one featured in that video that this person linked. And speaking of which, he didn't even like the movie, it seems like. He looked at that trailer and he posted, "Cringe. The art style of the horses and the lines/voice acting. What were they thinking? That dance scene was so unneeded. Horses can't even move like that without breaking their legs." And yeah, real life horses, they can't really do that. But let me give you a little secret there. Coming closer. Let me just say something. This is a cartoon. No one cares. Now what I do care about in a cartoon is not the unrealistic motions of a cartoon animal. No, I want to know what the animal represents. I want to know what the story means. And what this story means is going against the status quo, pacifism, possibly toxic masculinity. I won't go too much into this outside of the spoiler section, but those aren't really in the original storybook. It's just, I guess the pacifism is there. Don't worry about what other people think, just do whatever you want. But it goes much further in this movie with a bigger character dynamic and arc and all that, as expected with a feature-length film. I mean, it's a given when you have something like a bull, something known for being big and burly and kind of aggressive, going against the status quo and sniffing on flowers all day. But there is an important detail that's revealed in the beginning of the movie. So, in the beginning of the book, the mother of this little bull calf is sort of understanding of the calf's ways. In the movie, they don't have a mother, they have a father. And it's not just the father. Fathers for all 4 of the little bulls that end up in this pen, this Casa del Toro. You see, with more maternal guidance, you have more understanding and all that. But with more paternal, you have this aspect of where you have your ideal, you have your idol, and you have to do what they do, which means you get to go into the role of masculinity. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's not so good. If you've seen a bull fight, or if you know about it, you know for a fact that the bull isn't the bull doesn't win. It's usually killed. They bring that up in the movie. I'm not going to talk too much about the details of that. That's more for the spoiler section. But you can see the similarities between going into the bull ring as a bull and maybe, I don't know, going into boxing or football or the military or even construction, where there's a higher rate of male injury and even death as the ideal male thing, that even though there's a higher percentage of you being harmed, going into this, despite the safety regulations and all that, it's still the manly thing to do. And I think it does a good job alluding to that in a way that a child can understand. Let's talk more about this in the spoiler section. Go ahead and skip to this part of the video if you want to avoid being spoiled. I mean, I've already spoiled the entire 10-page little storybook for you, but the movie, you might care. I don't know. So here's how the story structure works in this movie. You have the growing up as a kid that's different from the rest. Well, in the book, the bull kind of grows up on his own, and it doesn't really matter what the other bulls think of him. Just the mom is just like, oh, that's just how he is. But in the movie, they really put him into more of a masculine situation, which is interesting, actually. If you put a boy that's different from other boys, and there's no real maternal support there, you're gonna have a much different outlook. And the way this movie addresses it is that the little scrawny one that likes to sniff flowers and all that runs away, ends up on a farm, gets raised up there. Unfortunately, that's where the kickoff of an inciting incident is. There's a flower festival, and the big bull wants to go, but the human keepers are just like, nah, you don't want to do that. They're gonna think you're an aggressive animal. And the bull is just like, why would they do that? That sounds dumb. But then he does go there, and it's like, wait, they do think I'm a monster. What is that? That's dumb. And so that's how he ends up back at the little place where they raise up bulls to be fought at the bull ring, and that's where you spend a majority of the movie, actually. So I think that's a pretty good way of trying to structure things out outside of the pet dog. Who cares about that? You know, it's a good hero's journey with the bull being the hero. And I think that if it didn't stick to that structure, if it tried to be more like the book, it could have ended up way worse. It could have ended up with basically no plot, and it would have been terrible. So I don't mind the changes that this movie makes to the book. Also, important thing that I should mention, probably because this is a story about masculinity, the main character doesn't get the girl or the love interest at the end. In fact, there is no love interest. Isn't that great? Isn't this amazing that you can have an asexual, aromantic kind of a movie? Shout out to the people on the ace and the aro spectrum. You are cool. You are valid. I think this movie is for you, I guess. I originally saw that the goat was a female goat and thought, oh, are they going to do anything with this and the bull? Turns out, no, they're not. I guess they just didn't know how to write interspecies romance like that. Also, I don't think there's a single female bovine, a single cow in this movie. It's just mainly bulls. This isn't going to pass the Brechtel test, I'll just say that. Then again, there are a lot of great movies that don't pass the Brechtel test, but are good critiques on society. That's my feminist hot take. Oh, one more thing, actually. There's a chase scene that goes way too long and could have been shortened down. There are plenty of spots in the movie where this whole thing could have been shortened down. I don't think the horses mattered. I don't think the hedgehogs mattered that much. I don't think the dog mattered that much. But they included it anyway because these kids' movies have this tendency to just throw in tons and tons and tons of comedy, and it doesn't matter. You can have the comedy. You just need it to be more centrally focused and centralized and all that. Other than that, yeah, no, decent movie. Spoilers over. For real this time. This is a pretty decent adaptation on an old story. Granted, it's a basic kids movie, and it's not breaking too many rules in terms of battling the status quo, but it might be okay for little Johnny to watch it and be like, I don't want to be like the mean bull that likes to fight all the time. I want to be the bull that smells the flowers, Mommy. Yes, you are, Johnny. You're a good boy. Yes, you are. It's not mind-blowing, but it's not completely lost on me. You know, the music's great. It does have a nice Hispanic flair to it. The animation is pretty much standard fare for feature-length films, which is pretty good. So now let's talk about how furry it is. I'm going to use 3 aspects to grade how furry this movie is. First, we have cast. Just how many furry characters are in this film? Now, humans and animals are present in this movie. None of them remarkable. You're not going to see a unicorn or a quetzalcoatl in here. Like, you have an ordinary variety of species in this film. Some of them are given appropriate accents and all that. You have David Tennant giving a very Scottish accent to a Scottish Shetland kind of a cow.
You trying to tell me that you don't want to fight for glory in the ring?
I'm not a fighter.
I don't understand that at all.
The horses are Germanic and very taught in European because they're show horses. They go around and do pony tricks.
See, this is the beautiful horsey side, and that is the stinky bull side.
The humans all have more Hispanic accents, and like this is Spain, so it's in the European Union. Of course, you're going to find some Scots and some Germans in there, but there aren't that many Spaniards in terms of the main animals that matter. And we have a different variety of different kinds of bulls as well. They even talk about how big and burly Ferdinand is compared to the ones that's like more of a speedster, a light brownish coat. There's one that's genetically modified, which, wow, you genetically modify an animal just for it to go into the ring and show off and be killed for the people's entertainment. That's, wow, that's dark. This is a dark kids movie, I'll admit that. But I guess the big question is, what is the ratio between human characters and the furry characters? And I'll go ahead and say that there are more notable furry characters that matter to the film, that you spend more time with rather than the humans. Because you see humans running around in the background all the time, but the main focus isn't on them, it's on the bulls. Specifically Ferdinand and the other bulls in Casa del Toro. So I will give a rating of around medium in terms of cast. Next will be furriness, just how furry are the actual furry characters in this movie. Just like in the movie Spirit, they are very anthropomorphic, feral four-legged animals. Now, in the furry fandom, we say anthro and feral. Anthro means generally they walk on two legs. Feral means they walk on four legs. That's the main distinct features that you can run into in terms of furries. They basically have the human brain inside of a four-legged creature. They're cartoon animals. They have the human intelligence, but they are also aware of their species, and they just deal with that. In this case, you have bulls. For some reason, they could read the iconography and the written language, that being Spanish, on stuff like signs and billboards and all sorts of stuff, even on houses. Where do they learn to read? Like, again, cartoon. Doesn't matter that much. Just a weird quirk and kind of a plot convenience almost. Like, especially when they're inside the Madrid towns and all that. I don't know, I guess the humans let them read a little bit. You gotta give something to your prisoners. You also have the trope of they can basically understand humans. Humans cannot understand them. Totally lost on that aspect. The humans, whenever it comes to their attention, they hear nothing but animal noises. But apparently, the bulls and goats and every single animal out there is smart enough that they can interpret not just human emotions, but language and vocabulary, and tone and inflection as well. Again, kind of plot convenience, but whatever, it's a cartoon. This isn't going to go into detail about why they know how to do that and have the intelligence to do that, but not the intelligence to speak back to the humans. This is just a story about bulls experiencing toxic masculinity, okay? Not that complicated. Like, there's just enough of that human awareness and pop culture reference convenience there to give this a kids film spin that I'm not quite that sure about it, you know? It's basic cartoon animal logic, but it does give them their furry qualities. So, I'll give this a medium high in terms of furriness. Finally, we have relevancy. Just how relevant are these furry characters and their furriness to the plot or the story of this film? I've talked earlier before about bullfighting from the bull's perspective as a metaphor for toxic masculinity, the role as animals as either pets, wild, entertainment, etc. It's not one-to-one in real life struggle you have between the rich, the poor, and everyone in between. It's not some sort of commentary on how humans deal with this sort of struggle. It's just how the animals deal with the humans and that struggle. That's still kind of a furry concept because it's taking something that's relevant to the animals in their livelihood, basically, giving it a spin on how something a more thinking and coherent animal how they would deal with that. This isn't a concept that's new to Ferdinand. It's just the first one that's come to like bullfighting. Well, one of the first. Because you also have Book of Life, and that's not so much about the bulls, but it's about how the human doesn't want to do the bullfighting and wants to be a musician. And then you have Ferdinand, which is about a species trying to survive, and the human confined roles that it has. Because bulls and cows, they have basically become domesticated. They're not wild animals like Spirit, or like the creatures in Ice Age. They are a fully domestic creature. Their livelihood basically depends on us, And our livelihood depends on them as well. There are so many things that you get from cows and bulls. You get milk, you get cheese, meat, leather, you know, so many things. So now we have a story that's been realized into a feature-length film that discusses, hey, how do they feel about that? So in terms of relevancy, I'm gonna give this a medium high. It's a little bit too human-centric to be sort of up in the actual high zone. It's just a little bit short, but I think as a furry, you can still get behind this. Even if you're not a furry, you can still get behind this, and once you give human qualities to this animal, you realize a bit more about humanity and the actual animal itself. So what do we have so far? We have medium in terms of cast, we have medium high in terms of furriness, medium high in relevancy as well. I'm gonna boil that down into medium high. So this is a pretty decently furry film in terms of its anthropomorphic qualities. And like I said before, this is actually not that bad of a kid's movie. Trust me, I have seen worse. Some have been featured on this YouTube channel, actually. This is available to watch pretty much everywhere on the internet. I watched my copy over on YouTube. I actually paid money to YouTube to watch this. Can you believe that? This is the only time I've given money to YouTube, I think. But, you know, pick a streaming service, watch it there if you want, and have a bullfighting blast. Except don't, because bullfighting is bad. Anyway, this has been Lightning Runner with How Furry Is It? Down below in the description, you will see my social media links below. That would be my Telegram, my Twitter, and my Instagram that I don't really use that much. I also have links to my TikTok and my Discord screen name. Speaking of Discord, I have a personalized Discord server as well. On that server, you can talk about furry stuff, you can share memes, you can do whatever you want. But you will not get the most benefits, I argue, unless you are part of my Patreon. Every video on my YouTube channel, including this one, will have early access to people that pay at least $1 a month to me on Patreon. Could be the day before, could be the night before, you get the drill. And you're also special because you get special perks on Discord. You will have exclusive dedicated channels, voice channels, and chats exclusive to just the rank that you are on Patreon. You can also be a sponsor. You can sponsor a video. I will be your billboard if you pay me enough per month that month. If you are a small business online, like an artist that wants to show off their commission prices, I will be your billboard for that if you are part of my Patreon. So go ahead and check that out. That's in the description. Once again, my social media, my Discord server, my Patreon. You can do this if you like the video. You can give one of these if you dislike it. You can comment down below if something really spoke to you and you just want to share it with the world on this video. Go ahead, it's your opinion. You go for it. And you can also subscribe to this channel, but I would suggest that you watch a couple more videos before committing to that. But if you did like what you see, then you can stick around and watch some more of How Furry Is It? See ya!
Hello, Machina. Hi.
He was created in a lab. A Frankenbull. Says nothing, feels nothing.
You seem fun.